Greetings, Internet Faithful. I'm some guy named Rob from On Your Marks Wrestling, and this is Rob Recaps Raw for May the 7th, 2018. Yes, something's a little bit different. I'm in downtown Ottawa. I'm outdoors. It's lunchtime. It's noisy. You can probably hear the bus going by on Wellington Street, which is about maybe 100 feet in front of me at that. And yeah, I wanted to get these out on time. I want to be on camera. I want to make sure that I wasn't too late in getting these off to all of you. So I'm going to do the best I can. Hopefully I don't have to redo this because it's too noisy. I do have my notes, so if I'm looking down a lot, don't think I'm being rude. If I'm wearing, well, the reason why I'm wearing sunglasses, it's bright as hell outside. It's sunny as all get out. I'm in the shade, so I don't roast because it is quite warm today. But with that in mind, here we go. We get an opening promo, Kurt Angle hyping up the Money in the Bank. We're going to get 6 weeks of this, folks. Lots of Money in the Bank drama. Lots of people who are going to be trying to get into the qualifying matches. Lots of people bitching that they lost their qualifying matches. So remember how tedious it was for the whole deal with the Elimination Chamber? Multiply that by both shows. That's what it's going to be for the next 6 weeks. So buckle up. I hope you're in for a ride. Out comes Braun Strowman because he is not announced as part of the main event triple threat to qualify. He likens it to an event from his childhood where all the popular kids built a tree house, and then he waited for all of them to be in the tree house because he was sick of hearing about it, so he pushed it over, and pushed the whole tree over with the tree house and all the kids in it. I thought it was really funny. It got even funnier when Kevin Owens came out and called Strowman a very bad monster for pinning the wrong man at Backlash. Not that anybody cared, especially the referee. I don't think anybody cared at that point in the show. So Kurt Angle decides that he is going to make a match for the qualifier right now, and it's going to be Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens. We go into that. This match was really good. It was a lot better than I thought it would be. This actually could have been a pay-per-view caliber match, preferably with a title on the line. I like seeing a smaller guy being able to put Braun Strowman in a bit of peril, legitimate peril, especially a guy like Owens who has sort of credibility. He's smaller than Strowman, but he's not a very small guy. So he looks like he can still dish out a hurt on Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman basically doing the comeback and running around the ring and doing the shoulder checks to Kevin Owens never gets old. How rude. But yeah, Strowman wins. He is the first man to qualify for the Money in the Bank, so 1 down, 7 to go. We get to... do we have to? I just looked at my notes, realized we're at the Roman Reigns promo. How is this guy still a face? The whole promo cut like a heel promo. Everything. It was self-entitled. It was irritating. It was nothing that you would expect from a face who's trying to ingratiate himself to the audience. As soon as the crowd saw him, they booed very audibly. It was kind of a train wreck. And yeah, I don't know where they're going with this because this is really, really strange. Next matchup, we get No Way Jose and Titus Worldwide versus The Revival and Baron Corbin. It happened. At least Corbin didn't lose again. Or The Revival. They finally got a win. Which seems to be about as rare as gold for these guys. We get another Money in the Bank qualifier, this time for the women. Sasha Banks versus Ember Moon versus Ruby Riott in a triple threat match. Very solid match, ruined by a lot of dickheads in the crowd. The crowd was just horrible for this match. At one point, they cut to the strong side camera, and people are like all turned around, and they're chanting "yes" and "you deserve it" to some random asshole who's probably being escorted out by security. So yeah, it's just wow. This match was really good. It was definitely a solid match, and the crowd was dead until they decided to kind of turn on one of their own, and it was really annoying. I don't get it. I mean, I'm okay when a crowd gets obnoxious for a match that really deserves it, but this one didn't. By the way, okay, I'm leaving that in. It was interesting to see that even with Bayley's help, Sasha Banks was not able to get the win. I think this moment would have been a lot more interesting had it happened 4 to 6 weeks ago when this whole feud was still relevant. And I also love the double eclipse finish. I thought that was amazing. That just looked fantastic. We then get a very confusing Bobby Lashley promo where he talks about being beat up and bullied by his sisters. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that episode of The Simpsons where Grandpa Simpson starts that story about the onion on his belt and, why they called nickels, whatever. You know what I mean. If you've ever seen that episode of The Simpsons, you'll know exactly what I mean. I'm sorry for the camera shake, by the way. I'm holding this up with one hand while I'm holding my notes in the other. This promo was long, it rambled, it went absolutely nowhere and served absolutely no purpose. I don't know what the hell the point of all this was. We then get a rematch, Chad Gable versus Jinder Mahal. Mahal had asked to be in the qualifying for the Royal Rumble, and Kurt Angle had said that if Mahal puts in a good showing, that he'll consider putting him in the Money in the Bank qualifier. Just gonna wait for this delivery truck to go by. And so the match itself, pretty solid. They had another callback move from Chad Gable in his original match versus Jinder Mahal. They kind of called back to WrestleMania 8 where Bret Hart faced Roddy Piper and beat him by sort of turning the sleeper and reversing it into a pinning attempt, which ended up winning the match. This one had the retro flavor of the 1-2-3 Kid moonsault. That at the time beat Razor Ramon. This time did not put Jinder Mahal away. Mahal does pick up a much-needed victory because, quite honestly, he was getting pretty much jobbed out the entire time. I'm not sure why. They went from main event champion to U.S. champion at WrestleMania, no less, to basically jobbing him out on Raw. That didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. So him picking up the victory here is pretty important to him. After the match, he gives a post-match beatdown and kind of gets up on the ropes and kind of looks at the camera and asks Kurt Angle if he's watching. Later on, he'll actually go backstage and kind of confront Kurt Angle and ask if he was watching and wants to be inserted into the triple threat to make it a fatal four-way for the second qualifier of the Money in the Bank. And, of course, Kurt Angle gives him the big fat no. Up next, Slater and Rhino take on Ziggler and McIntyre. This match is pretty much everything you would expect. McIntyre and Ziggler win pretty handily. Elias versus Bobby Roode. Again, pretty much everything that you would expect from this match. Bobby Roode, of course, getting his measure of vengeance, his pound of flesh, as it were, out of Elias for what happened last week in Montreal. Next up, we have the Open Challenge for the WWE IC title. The Open Challenge is answered by Mojo Rawley, and again, exactly what you would expect. And you can tack that on as well for the Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel versus Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt match. These matches, I don't know why they put all this in here. And I know Rollins can basically get a great match out of like a rock, but not the rock, a rock, like a piece of stone that you pick up off the floor, or like a potted plant. But you don't have to prove it with Mojo Rawley. I think that's kind of a waste. The other matches, they were just pure filler. I mean, it's almost like you kind of wonder what the logic is in putting those matches on after a pay-per-view that is almost universally panned as being horrible. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It just seemed very, very strange. Finally, we get our Money in the Bank triple threat qualifying match. Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn versus the Roman Reigns. Roman gets less of a face pop than Sami Zayn does, which should tell you something. And keep that in mind, because this will play in later in the match, because Finn Balor and Sami Zayn will double team Roman Reigns on the outside, including a coup de grace done off the barricade onto Roman Reigns, and the crowd loves it. The crowd loves the double team on Roman Reigns. They can't stand Roman Reigns in this match, or at all, ever. It even gets to the point where at the end, after Roman Reigns makes his miraculous Superman comeback and you can all smell what's coming, it's like, okay, here comes the bullshit finish. We got the waft of bullshit in the air. Out comes Jinder Mahal to stop Roman Reigns from hitting a spear on Finn Balor, and Jinder Mahal gets probably one of the biggest pops of his career. That's right. They are trying and failing to put Roman Reigns against guys who are less popular than he is in the hopes of getting him over, and it's failing. Even a almost universally hated wrestler like Jinder Mahal is getting less heat on him and getting more face pop than Roman Reigns is. This is the level of failure we are at the WWE, and yet they're still pushing this along. I think there was a tweet that went out this morning, I think by Ryan Jansen, that said something to the effect of WWE's new strategy with Roman Reigns is to put him in the ring with only guys who are less popular and worse on the mic than he is. So expect a main event triple threat next week of Mojo Rawley versus Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns. And you know what? I bet you Rawley and Mahal get a better reaction than Reigns if that ever happens. Anyway, I usually do the TLDR up front. I forgot to do it this time, mostly because this episode of Raw was mostly it was very uneven. I can't say it was forgettable, but it was incredibly uneven. A lot of matches that were just filler, and they were unfortunately all in a row. So the entire middle of the show sagged completely. The first hour and a bit was somewhat okay, although I really wasn't a fan of all the individual promos. Let the motorcycle go by. Wasn't a big fan of all the individual promos from all the superstars saying about how they want to win the Money in the Bank and control their destiny and get the title shot, blah, 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 blah. We get it. We know what Money in the Bank is. Thanks. We've been around here for a while. They've only been doing Money in the Bank for, 15 years now? So yeah, we get it. We understand what the importance of it is. We don't need to be reminded. Anyway, that was the show. We'll see you next time for SmackDown. Take it easy.